What makes a mother kill her own children? What makes a person believe that murder is part of some divine prophecy? This is not a horror movie. This is not fiction. This is real. And this is the story of Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell. A story of mind control, religious fanaticism, and pure evil. A perfect mother, or a perfect lie. To the outside world, Lori Vallow seemed like a perfect mother. She was beautiful, well-spoken, and deeply religious. She had 3 children and was known as a loving, caring mother. She smiled often, posted happy family photos, and seemed to be the definition of a devoted parent. But what no one knew was that darkness was growing inside her mind. That darkness had a name, Chad Daybell. A self-proclaimed prophet, Chad believed that the world was about to end. He preached that some people were light spirits and some were dark spirits, and according to him, dark spirits had to be eliminated. When Lori met Chad, she became obsessed with his teachings. Slowly, she stopped being the mother her children knew. Slowly, she stopped seeing them as her own flesh and blood. And soon, she started believing that her own children were demons, and demons had to die. The first bloodshed. The first death in Lori's orbit was her own husband, Charles Vallow. Charles was a devoted father and a man who truly loved Lori. But he began to notice something terrifying. Lori was changing. She talked about visions, past lives, and the coming apocalypse. She claimed that God had given her a mission, and that Charles was in her way. In July 2019, Charles was shot dead by Lori's brother, Alex Cox. Lori told police it was self-defense. She smiled and laughed during questioning, and just hours later she threw a pool party at her house, like nothing had happened. Charles was gone, and Lori was free, but she wasn't done yet. Just 3 months later, another person mysteriously died, Chad Daybell's wife, Tammy. Tammy was healthy, active, and had no major medical issues, but one night in October 2019, she was found dead in her bed. At first, doctors said it was natural causes, but was it really? Within weeks of Tammy's death, Chad and Lori were married. They ran away to Hawaii, leaving behind 2 missing children, and that's when the real nightmare began. The children who disappeared. Lori had 3 children, but only 2 were still alive in 2019. 16-year-old Tylee Ryan was a bright, fearless teenager. 7-year-old J.J. Vallow was a sweet, autistic child who adored his mother. But in September 2019, both of them vanished. The last time Tylee was seen was on a trip to Yellowstone National Park. Just 2 weeks later, Lori pulled JJ out of school. She told teachers he would be homeschooled. She told friends he was safe. She told police he was visiting family. But none of it was true. Something horrific had happened. Something unthinkable. And Lori was hiding a terrible secret. When police asked her where her kids were, she refused to answer. She smiled, laughed, and acted like everything was fine. And then, she and Chad disappeared. By the time police caught up with them in Hawaii, the world was already asking one question. Where are Tylee and JJ? And the truth was more horrifying than anyone could have imagined. The backyard of death. In June 2020, after months of investigation, police finally searched Chad Daybell's backyard. They dug into the soil. They searched the flower beds. And then they found something. Beneath a layer of dirt was a plastic-wrapped bundle. They unwrapped it, and inside, they found the body of a little boy, J.J. Vallow. His hands were bound with duct tape. His mouth was sealed shut. He had been suffocated to death, and just feet away, they found Tylee's remains. But there was something even more horrifying. Tylee's body had been burned and dismembered. She had been cut into pieces and buried like trash. And Lori still showed no emotion. When police confronted her, she simply said, "Everything happens for a reason." And when she was arrested, she smiled for her mugshot, like she was posing for a photo. But the world had finally seen the truth. Lori Vallow was not a mother. Lori Vallow was not a prophet. Lori Vallow was a murderer. Intro. A chilling discovery, but more questions remain. The bodies had been found. The world finally knew the horrifying truth, but justice? That was still a long way away. What drove a mother to kill her own children? How did Chad Daybell manipulate Lori into believing she was fulfilling a divine mission? And most importantly, would they ever pay for their crimes? This is the aftermath of the Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell case. The trial, the lies, and the shocking truths that would finally come to light. The arrests, a smiling killer, and a silent prophet. In June 2020, after police uncovered the bodies of Tylee and JJ, Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell were arrested and charged. Lori was taken into custody in Hawaii, where she had been living as if nothing had happened. Chad was arrested at his Idaho home, standing just yards away from the graves of the children. But what shocked the public the most was Lori's reaction. She smiled in her mugshot, as if she was posing for a vacation photo. She showed no remorse, no sadness, no fear. Even in court she laughed, flipped her hair, and whispered to her attorneys like it was a casual conversation. Did she feel anything? Did she even care? Chad, on the other hand, was different. He was silent, emotionless, and cold. He barely spoke in court, keeping his eyes glued to the floor. He refused to cooperate with investigators, refusing to say anything about the murders. The once loud prophet had suddenly fallen silent, but the evidence was piling up, and soon the truth would be exposed. The web of lies, unraveling the cult mindset. As investigators dug deeper, they uncovered shocking details about Lori and Chad's twisted beliefs. Chad believed he was a prophet, sent to prepare the world for an apocalypse. He convinced Lori that her children had been possessed by dark spirits, and that they had to be destroyed. Lori, already obsessed with doomsday prophecies, believed every word. They ranked people's souls on a dark-to-light scale, claiming that dark spirits could not be saved. But the most chilling discovery: Lori referred to JJ and Tylee as zombies before they were killed. She told her closest friends that her children were already gone and that their bodies were just empty shells. She showed no sadness about their deaths. Instead, she said, "They're in a better place now." The trial, justice in the courtroom. By 2023, after years of legal battles, Lori Vallow finally faced trial. The prosecution had one goal: to prove that Lori was not insane, not manipulated, but fully aware of what she had done. They presented evidence of her text messages, where she celebrated the children's deaths. They showed recordings of her phone calls, where she laughed and flirted with Chad, even after their murders. They played videos of her dancing in Hawaii just days after Tylee and JJ were buried. And when Lori took the stand, she said just one thing: "God told me everything would be fine." But the jury did not believe her. After weeks of testimony, after seeing the horrific images, after witnessing the complete lack of remorse, they found Lori Vallow guilty. Guilty of conspiracy to commit murder, guilty of first-degree murder, guilty of destroying evidence, and the judge gave her a life sentence without the possibility of parole. But what about Chad? The final reckoning. Chad Daybell, the man who started it all, was still waiting for his trial. He had pleaded not guilty, insisting that he was a man of God. He refused to confess, refusing to show any emotion for the children he helped bury. But the evidence against him was overwhelming. With Lori already convicted, prosecutors turned their full attention to Chad, and when his trial finally begins in 2024, one question will remain: will he finally admit the truth? Or will he go to his grave believing his own lies? Because in the end, the story of Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell is not just a story of murder. It's a story of manipulation, belief, and the terrifying power of fanaticism. It's a story of how far a person can go when they truly believe they are doing God's work, and it's a story that the world will never forget. The end, for now.